Good morning, folks. It is 8:02 a.m. Chicago time on Friday, the 12th of April, 2024. This is episode number 2656. This is the last episode. There's one more episode on Monday. It's going to be a big one. I have a few plans for a Monday show. Make sure you're there, or at least watch a recording. But we're going to finish at 2,657. It looks like some of you who guessed at 2,666 didn't do the math right since you knew the date. In any case, thanks for coming in. I want to remind you that derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. First things first, we want to announce today's winner for the $100 giveaway plus 3 months of Edge Pro X, all sponsored by EdgeClear, edgeclear.com. Ace Stocks takes it. Ace Stocks has $100 going to them. But also some of these other guys too. These are the winners so far. The first winner that got pulled was Blue Eye. Next was Richie. The third was Edge Hunter. The fourth was Shark. And then today's winner is Ace Stocks. That leaves us with one prize and one prize alone. That'll be Monday. Monday we will have the MacBook Air giveaway. It's worth $1,200, again sponsored by EdgeClear. So those of you who participated, thank you so much. Keep plugging in. Keep going to ft71.com/TB out, which reminds me, we need to clear those entries. Let's see. Yeah, let me turn these off. We need to clear the entries and then have you register for that. We'll turn it back on after the show. Thank you for all who participated, and congrats to the winners. We'll reconvene again on Monday and give away the next prize. Okay, moving on. Here's what we've got going on today. We have mild risk off so far. It's actually turning into risk off versus mild risk off. The market posture is pulling money out of risk assets. There's a fair amount of news this morning. We did have some key earnings earlier today. Of course, we got Citigroup. Citigroup surprises by 31%, comes out at $1.58. Versus $1.20. We are in the Q1 earnings reports now. JP Morgan came out. JP Morgan came out at $4.40 versus $4.15 expected. Bank's doing great. Wells Fargo came out at $1.20 versus $1.09. BlackRock came out at $9.81 versus $9.32. And then we have Progressive, which came out at $3.73 versus $3.17. I thought that was going to come out in the afternoon, but it's actually out already. Progressive beating by 17%. Financials and insurance companies doing pretty good here. I think on Monday we have Goldman Sachs and quite a few others, actually. Busy week next week. So we have Goldman Sachs and Schwab on Monday morning. United Healthcare on Tuesday morning with J&J, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, PNC Bank, Bank of New York. Wednesday we have Abbott. We have Progressive again. That makes no sense to me. Progressive is already out. We have Abbott, Prologis, CSX, Bancorp, and so on and so on and so forth. So those are going to weigh in going forward. The overall news: South Korea held its rates steady, no change. The German inflation and Great Britain's GDP numbers came out in line overnight. China's balance of trade really missed. China is really ripe for some stimulus. U.S. export prices mainly in line. Commodities remain hot. Look at the blue boxes on this thing. They're all commodities. The commodity trade is just rocking. And crude oil popping higher on really big news out of the Middle East. Iran's expected to attack Israel in retaliation of Israel's attack on its consulate in Syria. Israel had conducted a drone attack on the consulate and killed several, one or more, I think, high-ranking people from Iran, general from Iran. Iran being an eye for an eye type of state, historically is expected to attack Israel. The U.S. has moved some pretty heavy defensive equipment, ships, towards Israel to see if they can try to intercept any drones coming out of Iran. The attack is expected from Iran itself, not from one of its proxy states. So all of this is pushing crude oil up. I mean, crude up 2.3%, $2, pushing near recent highs. Gold, new all-time highs. Silver, copper, these are all kind of operating. Gold, silver, operating as almost hedges against the dollar, against inflation, and then copper is another dollar-denominated commodity that's pretty hot right now. So a lot of money's flowing in there, and I think the general consensus is that commodities are going to continue to remain hot. They're pretty hot trade right now, all represented in the futures markets. They're going to continue to be hot until the Fed kind of gets off of their easing or cutting track. So lots to look to pay attention to today in terms of news. There's likely to be a lot of news flow today impacting the energy sector, and then throughout the weekend. So I'm going to make sure I keep my ears to my news feeds. And then to wrap it all up, China and the U.S. are in this tech war with chips. China has given an order to get rid of U.S.-made chips from its sensitive equipment. This is targeting Intel and AMD. They were down this morning early, but they have come back up. Looks like Intel's up 1.16. Well, no, hang on, pre-market. Yeah, they were down pretty good. AMD down 2.68%, and Intel down 2.66%. What do we have left? We have Michigan sentiment prelim. This is a high tier figure. This is a mover. And then we've got Fed's Bostic at or is it Bostich at 2:30, and then Fed's Daily at 3:30 today. Again, gotta have a news feed. I listen to CT News as well as a few others. Looking at the S&P, we are in a multi-distribution price discovery mode. Volume, again, pretty strong, 282,000 contracts. The inventory is 47% short, and the range is excellent, 54.5 as the market is dropping. And so, again, we rallied yesterday. That was a very odd rally. We rallied yesterday. We're right back to where we started from. Here's how things look. Yesterday, we opened right up here. And if you recall, yesterday I talked about the fact that we're coming into an excess. We left an excess behind the day before yesterday on Wednesday. And I talked about, hey, if the market doesn't push into this excess and hold, then I'm looking for this thing to be back um, at 52.11 as the first quick target from about 52.15. But the goal on this trade is to check the other side of value, and I was looking for 51.95 from 51.15. Maybe some of you recall me discussing that if we don't go in and take this excess out that was left on yesterday, early on, then it's very likely to push down, and 51.95 would be my target. Anything beyond there would be gravy, and we got gravy yesterday. So push down through value low. This is a balanced profile. We're trading balance. Basically, we're trading a trip back into balance, which is exactly what happened. This is a very kind of typical auction action. And then it didn't stop at 51.95. It ended up pushing all the way down to 51.81 through our lower band, which is at 51.85. 51.85 being carried over from last month. This green band down here, has been here for quite some time. So once we did that, there were signs. If you were in the Convergent chat room, I talked about how the low looks really firm. As the market was turning up, I had cautioned that I would not trade the pullback to the day-generated prices, DGPs, which coincided with 5,200. There's a lot going on in the sandwich right here. This is what we call a DGP sandwich, day-generated price sandwich, where everything kind of converges on one price, and it looks rock solid because it's got so much there, and it's just a perfect given context. If you're not aware of context, it gives a some perfect conditions for a squeeze. And I could see a squeeze coming, although it's not here because did not retain the MBO data. There was quite a bit of order flow down here that where the market kept bouncing up and pushing down and kind of hammering on the bid, and the bid kept reloading and reloading and reloading, and then finally it relieved. To me, this is a perfect setup for a short squeeze. We get this strong move down, and then we create this kind of B-shaped profile at the bottom of this, and then we start to break higher, and the entry for this would be right here on the pullback. We pull back to a higher low on the prior low of day, which is the 51.85, that support area, the green band that we have, and then it starts to walk itself back to this really important reference zone between 51.98 and 5,200. And again, as I cautioned, this is not a good area to be short. From there, we ended up pushing higher, consolidating with the IB stat in play. Remember, we're statistical traders. We're probability traders, right? We're not voodoo traders. We're probability traders. I don't trade chart patterns. I don't trade fibs. I don't trade any of that. I trade the auction. The basis for what I'm looking for is the auction. What is the auction doing? Because ultimately the market is just a big auction mechanism, and we support the auction with our statistics, and we have quite a few of them. The initial bounce stat is a classic. Gap stats, overnight high low test stats, all of that. Been talking about these things for the last 15 years, 16 years. And so we're looking for the IB to be broken. What's the probability of the market turning around after consolidating here on this zipper to come down and take out this IB? It's much, much tougher for it to do that than the breakthrough, and we got the breakthrough. So you want to hang on. If you're long, you want to hang on to those trades and play the 98% historical probability. Again, past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. you play that 98% historical probability for the break, for the breach of the IB, and then you monitor if it breaches the IB and comes back in and takes out the low of the zipper, or if it continues higher. And if it continues higher, what are your targets going to be? Your target is most definitely going to be the excess high, because now you're back in the excess, right? You're back in the excess. So the minimum target in this situation is 52.2650. This secondary target becomes your point of control. So 52.35 has been in play for some time. 52.35, and anything beyond that 52.35, which you can see there was a battle here, 52.35. Anything beyond 52.35 is also considered gravy. Lots of gravy yesterday. Again, we came in with really good volume. We came in with really good range. And so this is one of those days where you want to shed the noise and kind of focus on the price action. So that's what happened. We ended up settling at 52.43. And I talked yesterday about 52.50 being the key area above as we take out the excess, come back to 52.50. The market loves these century and mid-century figures. Very often responds in those areas. We end up getting into 52.55 and then just going sideways. On the reopen, so that's the narrative of yesterday. And yesterday, I know I make it sound so easy and all that. I recognize in real time it's not, but being able to see this and understand it and have it happen over and over, you really start to have confidence on the hard right edge of what the market's trying to do. So as far as one of the key rules of the auction is that the auction continues advancing in a direction that it's going until it encounters the opposing force. Much like Newton's laws. It really is the same. So, an object will continue in motion until it's confronted by an external force to change its direction. And that's basically what the market is doing. It just continues until it finds its sellers. One of the most key indications that a seller is in place is an excess, and that's what we got on Wednesday, and that becomes a key reference for yesterday. So whenever we have an excess higher low, that's really important. So we reopen, not much action on the APAC session. Europeans come in somewhere in here and they take it right down. China reported its balance trade pretty late. I thought that number was supposed to come out like at 11 p.m. or something my time. It came out at 3 a.m. So from there, boom, selling it down. The European market actually held up pretty well. Most stocks in Europe, most sectors in Europe were pretty positive, but price action was lower in the U.S., and it just continued lower as news flow continued with Iran and several other pieces. We ended up putting a low here, a relatively weak low, consolidating, pulling back to the full session mid. Again, this is another DGP day-generated price, and then we continued down. So whenever you see these zippers on the way down, those are really key for staying in a trade. And as soon as the zipper breaks, that becomes my stop, right? This would become my stop or reference area. I'm not going to wait for it to come all the way back. So that's where we stand. We're back below to 51.95. Here's 51.95 again. So all of that effort yesterday running up has been canceled in the overnight session. Sellers are quite active this morning, and we're holding steady at 5,200. So we're opening in a somewhat precarious location. This area here, the 5,200, all the way up to 5,206 or so. This is a magnet zone. There's a lot going on in this area, and it makes it somewhat difficult to have a good bias. AMD now crossing, being down 3%, Intel down 2.5%. Doesn't look like these stocks are recovering very well based on that news. And oil is going to be a drag. Oil, it creates inflation. The fact that the dollar is at 105 plus is a huge drag on a macro basis on the economy in general. Remember, as the dollar goes up in price and all these commodities are priced in dollars, products made in the U.S. become a lot more expensive to everybody else, especially countries that are cutting interest rates and trying to deflate their currency. So it just becomes harder for U.S. companies to compete. An example of that would be Boeing versus Airbus, those kinds of things. So the dollar is an important, in a monetary regime, which is where we are. We're in a monetary regime where the Fed is controlling the auction. You want to pay attention to those, to the U.S. dollar. You want to pay attention to commodities, gold, silver, that sort of stuff. Okay, so where are we today? We have these references a lot higher. So what we have is an auction that is quite separated. The most recent prices are quite separated from the overnight point of control. It's not likely to shift down here before the open, and we have pretty good separation to the sessions VWAP and mid. So what this is it's a market that is in a session. In this session, the market is out of balance, but the market is out of balance day to day as well. So this creates a pretty good opportunity, almost like a gap trade. Remember, settlement yesterday was 52.43. We have what's basically a 43-point gap to yesterday's settlement price. And so the most important thing to monitor for this morning is, does it run back up? Does it run back up to try to close some of that gap? This is basically some profit taking. We call that responsive buying in this situation. They're just responding to the auction being out of balance. Or does the market kind of sit sideways and continue to be initiative and continues lower? If it does, this may be a big selling day. This could go pretty deep into the 5,100 handle in the S&P this morning. You could see that Delta is relatively flat. It's governed by large lots, but the overall delta, let's move this up here. The overall delta, the net delta is relatively flat. Large lots holding prices up are buyers, and very large lots are sellers. Small lots are sellers as well. So we'll see how these participants engage with each other on the open. We've been exceeding our normal rotation, so volatility is high. You need to expand your stops. You need to expand your targets to make up for wider stops. There's likely to be pretty good volatility today. That's the bottom line. We've talked too long, 24 minutes now. I'll let you go. Don't forget, Monday, we will announce the winner of the MacBook Air. We'll pick that winner by 8:30 Eastern Monday morning. The form to apply has been shut off temporarily. We're going to turn it back on. Be sure to register. The MacBook Air will be shipped to you directly if you're in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S., we'll have to work out another way to get that to you. There are some restrictions on where we can send equipment. Just remember to participate. You can do so by going to ft71.com/TB-out. Okay? Monday will be a big show. It'll be the finale of this 12-year series. We're in our 12th season. This will be the grand finale, and I'll catch you there. Be sure to participate. Again, ft71.com/TB-out. Good luck.